Well, on today's episode, Ante Campbell and I discuss Jason Tatum's MVP odds and NBA All-Star voting. The new votes have been cast. We'll update you on that. Check out all that and more on Hold My Banner. It's available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and wherever else podcasts are found.
What's up? Welcome into Foxboro Rush. He's Travis Thomas. I'm George Belichick. Trav, cool it over there, man.
Hey, man, listen. You know, one thing I love is our theme song, and then I love rocking out to that, and then I love Foxboro Rush. I don't care what I'm doing, how many shows I got going, what's going on in my life. I look forward to being here with you talking Patriots, my brother.
Definitely a rush for anyone a fan of what's going on in Foxboro right now. Jerod Mayo out. We know head coaching candidates are being interviewed. Mike Vrabel interviewing with the Patriots on Thursday. Ben Johnson will virtually interview with the Patriots on Friday. And the Patriots also requested Lions defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn as well to be interviewed. As of the recording of this podcast, it hasn't been accepted. They did 2 Rooney Rule interviews as well. Pep Hamilton, Byron Leftwich. Not to put those guys down. It's more about the Krafts just approached it. They bring them in. 2 guys that would struggle to get a coordinating job to interview them. But hey, this is a special episode. James White, 3-time Super Bowl champion, 8-year career with the Patriots. Now a host of the Money Down podcast joined the show, so we're going to toss to his interview in a second. But also, new reports coming from Andrew Callahan and Doug Kyde of the Boston Herald, painting a picture in detail what happened behind the scenes for the Patriots this season. Chaos, lack of culture, lack of discipline. We'll get to all that. But for now, here's our interview with James White. He's James White, 3-time Super Bowl champion with the Patriots, 8-year NFL vet, and now you can catch him hosting the Money Down pod with his fellow Badgers. James, appreciate you taking the time to hop on Foxboro Rush. How we doing, my man?
I'm doing well. Can't complain. How are you guys doing today?
Hey, we're doing good. We're excited to have you on. Excited to talk Patriots. It's an interesting time right now, but we got to start there with another new head coach looking to take the reins for the Pats. What did you make of the timing of the firing for Jerod Mayo? Not even given a full calendar year to be a head coach and only given 1 season, albeit when they went 4-13.
I thought he deserved another season. I mean, thrown in a tough spot, really taking over after Bill Belichick had a tough, couple of last seasons. Roster not necessarily in the greatest situation, so I think he was put in a tough spot. And to me, if you're hiring a first-time head coach, a guy who's coached only 5 years in this league, I think you had to have expected it was going to take more than 1 season for him to get it right. Yes, he could have handled things better. Yes, the team potentially could have performed better, but to me, it was definitely more than a 1-year operation. Not to say that this may not be the right decision for the future. I don't know what the cards may hold for the team going forward, but I just think if you were going to hire Jerod, Mr. Kraft and company, I just think you just knew it was going to take time.
Yeah, I agree. The biggest part to point out is that he had just 5 seasons of being an assistant coach in the NFL. And we heard all the Dan Campbell comparisons, right? Dan Campbell had a tough first year. That was unfair to put that on Jerod Mayo. Dan Campbell had 6 seasons of being an assistant or associate head coach in New Orleans before he got that head coaching position. Now, you spent 5 total seasons with Jerod yourself, 2 with you 2 as teammates, the other 3 with him as an assistant coach on the coaching staff. Is that a guy, taken away from how this season went, when you were around him, both in a locker room and, of course, on the practice field and game day with him being a coach, is that a guy you said, now that is a guy I could see as a coach one day and possibly as a head coach one day in the NFL?
1,000%. He has the personality, he has the charisma, and he's a leader of men. Even when I got to play with him as a teammate, he's loud, he's proud. He'd be the first guy you hear in the locker room when his locker was right by the door when you walked in. First guy you would hear, first guy you would hear when you're leaving as well. But knows the game of football, was around him as a coach as well. Very similar. His linebackers played hard for him. Definitely a guy that helped impact our performance on a day-to-day basis in a positive way. So I definitely believe at some point he'll get another opportunity, to be a head coach in this league. I know he had some opportunities to interview even prior to, last season to be, head coaches elsewhere. Who knows if those were actually, legit interviews, as we can see, teams, use that Rooney Rule in a funny fashion. So hopefully the NFL can address that because I think some teams are just, actually interviewing some people that they don't necessarily even find as serious candidates.
Yeah, to call it a funny fashion shows how nice you are, James, because I went off on that yesterday. I went on a absolute monologue tear about how the Rooney Rule is a good thing, but also, it's used to the advantage of these teams a lot of times, and it's just a dog and pony show. It drives me nuts. But that's another topic for another podcast with you and I want to ask you about, even though you weren't here in the building every day, from afar, and knowing Jerod the way you do, when you sort of assessed him as a first-year head coach, what did you see that you liked? Were there things you saw you didn't like? I mean, if you were evaluating him from afar, what were some positive takeaways, and what were some things that you thought, oh, come on, Jerod, we got to get better at this?
I mean, I know a bunch of people were making a big deal about, media comments after the games. Like, yeah, sure, that could help. But at the end of the day, as a player within the locker room, I'm not necessarily paying attention to all that. As long as my coach, has me prepared on a day-to-day basis, on a game-to-game basis, that I feel confident going into the game, that we have a great game plan, and I trust in the process that he's instilling. I think that's what matters most. I think he got the most important thing right as far as the Drake Maye. I know nobody gives him credit for what Drake Maye's done. They just obviously give all the credit to Drake, for his performance throughout the year. I thought he handled that situation extremely well. You start Jacoby early on in the year, even though maybe Jacoby didn't outperform Drake Maye during preseason, but you gave him enough time to make sure he was prepared and ready to go out there and execute when he did step in that starting role. So I think he deserves some credit when it comes to that. I think obviously for the rest of the season, it wasn't pretty. And I don't care if you won 4 games, whether you won 6 games versus 4 games. If you're a bad team, you're a bad team. There's not really many positive things you're going to say, about a bad football team. And I know everybody, says last year they were a top whatever defense. That don't matter. You still only won 4 games, so you still had a lot of holes to fix. So there's not many good things you're going to say about a very bad football team. But I do think they got the right thing right in their young quarterback, and then everything else just really has to fill itself in this offseason. And whoever the next coach is going to have an opportunity to be sitting in a pretty good spot, because you're going to have a ton of cap space. You have a quarterback who looked pretty solid his rookie season, and he's going to come in with a year of experience. And I said you have your quarterback of the future, which is the most important thing.
Yeah, like you point out, everything they have on their side. And you're right, too. I mean, Jerod Mayo is a guy that, look, he looked 5 games into the season. He said the offense isn't working. Drake Maye sat, and he put him in. And then it was from that point on, we know how good Drake Maye's been. Like, Jerod Mayo, as a head coach, he had to push the button, and he had to make that call. That's what you got to do as a CEO. I like you point out, like, the Patriots now moving forward, James, because you played for the Patriots for you could say CEO-type head coach, but Bill Belichick, his forte was on the defensive side, and he's the greatest head coach of all time. But for this team moving forward, and from an offensive player's perspective, what do you think is more important for Drake Maye and what they have to do next step? Get another CEO-type coach in a Mike Vrabel? Or is it take a swing on a guy like a Ben Johnson that's an offensive guru, offensive mastermind, and more like a Sean McVay?
I mean, it's really tough to say. I don't think you can go wrong with either one of those candidates. It's just all about whoever that coach is being a leader of men and make sure he's instilling culture, holding everybody accountable, within the organization, the players on the team, the coaching staff. And if you bring in a guy like Mike Vrabel, it's just him bringing in an offensive coordinator that he believes in, and that offensive coordinator, believing in Drake Maye and allowing him to do things that play to his strengths and allow him to grow as a young player. I don't think it necessarily has to be just an offensive guru like Ben Johnson to come in to make sure you fix the offensive side of the ball. I think either way you go, if you get an offensive coach, you're going to have to find a good defensive coordinator to make sure you shore up the defense. So there's no right or wrong answer to this thing as far as who the head coach is going to be. It's just all about that person, being confident in what they're doing. Obviously, I think that person will have, more grace than what Jerod has. I don't think you're going to fire, a coach, in back-to-back years. I don't think that's the recipe to be a successful organization. So just Kraft giving that person time to, figure things out. Because even coming the next year, I mean, you would hope the team is better, but to me, it's still going to take at least two more years before things really get rolling.
Yeah, why does that timeline jump out to you, that 2 more years? Because I always say it takes 1 year, new head coach, new offensive coordinator, new GM. You got to kind of reset the roster. They'll figure out guys who want to keep, guys who want to bring in that fit us. Why do you say 2 years that it'll take before they're back to being, competitive again or good?
I just think there's quite a few holes to fill, from offensive line to figuring out if you need to go pay money for a receiver, draft another receiver, whether it's getting another corner, more pass rushers, adding another linebacker, whatever it may be. I just think there's, whether they believe they have the guys in there already that can fill in those roles, I'm not sure. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But just from the outside looking in, it just seems like there's a lot of things that need to be fixed. And as far as, preparation, I don't know, and, from a leadership standpoint, who are the leaders, within your team that can, help, push that, locker room going forward.
James, man, this is what drives me crazy about George. Let me bring you behind the curtain of our friendship, okay? He asked you that question because he's being slick, because you agreed with his take. What he says, and he tells me over and over again, this is a 2, 3, 4 year rebuild. Here's my thing. Hear me out, James. All the time in this league, you know this better than anyone. These teams go from worst to first, and a lot of times it's because they have the head coach and the right quarterback, that combo. The Patriots right now, we know, have the quarterback, James. You just said you like Drake Maye. They have tons of money to spend. Go get some damn help in free agency. They have a top 5 draft pick that should be number 1. Don't get me started. They have number 4. Fine. Knock it out in the draft. Don't have another draft like last season when all you got was Drake Maye. You have to have a real draft, top to bottom, late round picks as well. James, am I crazy to think, I don't know, Mike Vrabel comes in. You got the right coach. You got Drake Maye. You spent some money in the offseason. You get a top 5 pick. Can this team not be vying for a wild card or something, James? It happens all the time.
It can happen. I'm just saying, for realistic expectations, I would be more patient for two years. That's to me. Okay. It can very well happen. You know what I mean? Dan Campbell in his first year, he did whatever, and then the next year they're fighting to get in the playoffs and everything. Mm-hmm. So we see a guy like DeMeco Ryans coming in his first year, take a rookie quarterback to the playoffs. Yes, it can happen. I'm just saying, for like a realistic expectation, I wouldn't expect it to happen. For me, I'm thinking it's going to take at least 2 years, because it's hard to coach in this league. I mean, coaches are barely even getting a year to fix things. So, like, say that the new coach comes in and he goes 5 and whatever. Right. Are we looking to fire him? Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's tough, and it's a tough situation. People want instant results. As fans, as owners, you want to see things turned around in the blink of an instant. I just think that's not always the case, and for us, even as a former player, just gotta have a little bit of patience. Like, not saying that's impossible that it can happen. I just think it's more realistic to think 2 years.
If you're enjoying the show, be sure to check out Foxboro Rush every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for all things Patriots football. With Jerod Mayo fired and the Patriots picking number 4 overall, it's going to be a busy offseason. Available on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, Twitch, and wherever else you get your podcast. If you want to go back and watch past episodes, go to Nesson's YouTube page, hit the subscribe button, or go to Spotify, type in Foxboro Rush, and check out past episodes. Kurt Warner, you saw him there. James White, many other guests always joining the show. Check it out, Foxboro Rush, wherever you like to listen to your podcasts. I love that you put realistic expectations to everything. What is it like being in that locker room, inside those walls at One Patriots Place? What are the expectations like in there? Because you come in 2014 and you know what it is. You know what that locker room is. You know it's championships or bust. What is it like being a player inside those walls? What are the expectations like that you guys have for yourselves and that everyone in that building expects?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't necessarily been in the position that they're in currently right now, but for me, walking in 2014, like, you have a lot of veteran players, guys that have played in Super Bowls, coaches that have coached in Super Bowls. The expectation and the standard was already set. You're gonna have a new coach. You have probably a ton of new players coming in here. I don't know what the standard's going to be. I don't know what the coach's expectations are going to be. I don't know what Kraft's expectations are going to be. I'm not sure. They have to figure that out, kind of on the fly. I kind of look at it, like the Arizona Cardinals, this year. Coming into the year, I mean, this it was head coach Gannon. They probably weren't thinking they were competing, for the playoffs this year. They come in, they start winning. It's like, oh, we got a chance. So the standard kind of probably changed on the fly. Like, we got an opportunity to win the division. They didn't end up making it to the playoffs, but I don't think probably most people from the outside looking in, or even within the building, probably believe that they were going to win that division, walking into the year. So the standard can change kind of on the fly to me, and the expectation can change too, based on how the season's kind of rolling on earlier in the year. So you never really know. Obviously Buffalo, their team looks like they're going to be pretty solid still. Going forward. Dolphins, who knows what happens with them, and some of their frustrations that's going on. The Jets, they, I banked on them being good this year. Should never do that again.
Me too, James. Never again. I am done. I am done with the Jets, bro. I am done. So, what were we thinking?
Yeah, I just thought I believed in what Aaron potentially could do for him, and their defense actually being what they were, but they weren't, and kind of is what it is. So they'll be in a little bit of a turmoil too. So, I mean, there's a chance that I would say we can potentially be a second team in the division. Not saying we can't be first, but it's realistic that it could be the second team in the division.
Hey, second team in the division, that could be a wild card berth. We'd see what would happen. But again, it's a realistic expectations. And like you pointed out, when you walked in is different from where the standards are in that building right now. Because as Robert Kraft has said, I expect to get back to the playoffs. I expect to be competitive. And that's just not realistic right now. But what I think was important, James, was Robert Kraft opened his presser the day after he let Jerod Mayo go, and he took full accountability. Hand on his chest, he said, "This is on me." And you heard it in his voice. He felt terrible about how the last season went, what he did to Jerod Mayo, and the fact that he had to fire him. When I think of your tenure with the Patriots, I think of your retirement ceremony. Robert Kraft made sure you went out, on a red carpet. And he rolled everything out because that's how much he cares about his players and how much players mean to him. What is it like being around Robert Kraft and you getting to know him over the years? Because as we saw, in a business where it's always cold, it's always, calculated. It's sorry, bud, this is the business. I got to fire you.
Yep.
He's one of the few owners that actually shows that human side to him.
Oh, their family's awesome. I said, I never played for any other organization, but, Robert Kraft, Jonathan Kraft, their entire family, they're great. They're very personable. They walk through the locker room. They'll speak to you, have conversations with you, have a great relationship with them. So they definitely have that human side of them. And like I said, you love, Kraft taking, accountability for, hiring Mayo and firing him, one season or, very short time period. It's good to see him take accountability for it. I said, it's definitely tough, tough for Mayo. I don't know what their relationship would be like going forward, if Mayo feels a certain type of way, or like say they hire, Mike Vrabel, I'd feel kind of a certain type of way. If you fire me after, 6 or 7 months, and then you hire a guy who, I probably thought you wanted to hire anyway in the first place, probably last season. So, I don't know whether the true wording and Mayo's contract with that he was automatically going to be the next coach. That's the thing that's been going around, and maybe he just wanted to fulfill that promise for him. And then, if things didn't look great, then he would kind of move forward and try and find, that next coach. But I would say that he's a great person. I have no issues with Kraft whatsoever. So their family is very, very awesome. Do a lot of great stuff in the community too.
James, do you think maybe because of that tie, because of, hey, it could look like I wanted Vrabel to begin with, another former player, let's give him a chance now. Do you think because of that, maybe that's an advantage to a Ben Johnson, someone who's sort of from the outside coming in? Do you think Robert Kraft would maybe lean that direction and sort of get away from the playing tree as far as bringing them in as coaches? Or do you think that's an advantage for Vrabel, obviously, because he did play?
I think potentially gives Vrabel a little bit more of an edge, but I just hope, their entire family do their due diligence, not just hand it, straight to Vrabel based off a previous relationship. I think you do your interviews, find some other, potentially good candidates that you may think may fit, and give them a fair chance. Because not to say that Vrabel won't walk in and do a good job, but I said you may get wowed by somebody else, and they potentially could be a good coach too. So just make sure you're taking all these interviews, or actually interviewing legit people that you
Thank
think
you. Thank you, James.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, and I agree with that. I mean, one of the best parts of, or one of the most important parts, I should say, of opening up a head coaching search or any search, you interview the candidates. That's information gathering. Like the Chargers, you go back a year ago, they knew they were going to get Jim Harbaugh. They still did a full-fledged coaching search.
Yeah.
And I agree with both of you that it was a funny way they did the interviews with a Byron Leftwich or a Pep Hamilton. Mm-hmm. But to that end, I hope they walk away from those interviews going, Pep Hamilton's a good quarterbacks coach. I like his outlook. Yep. And he was a great play caller when he was with Michigan.
Yes, he was.
He was a great play caller when he was with Houston. Exactly. So I agree with you. Look, the pie in the sky, I guess you'd say, is Mike Vrabel. But I don't want to see ownership lock in again and just go with him because they want him. Because, look, if they do the full search and it's Mike Vrabel as head coach and Josh McDaniels as offensive coordinator, and they truly did a full search and they think those are the best candidates, great. But if they just go with them because we know Mike, we know Josh, it's familiarity, then it's doing wrong by the fans and it could be doing wrong by the franchise. So I agree with your point on that one, James, of like do the full search, don't do anything funny. They're not the first, and they won't be the last team to make a sham of the Rooney Rule, and that's what stinks. It's a good rule to give those guys in those rooms, but that's what stinks. And I wish I had an answer for it. I don't, but I recognize that happens. I hope the Krafts, they saw this last season. What stuck out to me about Robert Kraft was how much he took it to heart, that he really goes into the search, and he makes sure he doesn't leave any stone unturned. And set up another coach for failure. He needs to set up the franchise, Drake Maye, everyone, the fans, up for success. I know it was a long-winded, kind of response to that. James, the one thing I want to ask is that when you looked back on your time with the Patriots and now you see that they're this point moving forward, and you mentioned the word culture. Whatever coach has to come in has to establish a culture. It's thrown around so much in sports and everywhere in life. Not just what the Patriots culture was. We know it was do your job. Everyone has an edge.
No days off.
Yeah, exactly. No days off. The team comes first. Everything like that. But aside of what the culture was for the Patriots, what makes a culture get established? What do you, in your mind, is essential for that to happen? Any culture.
Well, I think it starts with the coach first and foremost. Being accountable. For his actions. The coaches being accountable, and I think you have to have. Players, your best players, more than likely, them be accountable as well. Them practicing hard, them watching film, them actually their performance, showing up on the field week in and week out. Got to give, those young players and new players that come into your team, something kind of like that reference point in a sense, like, okay, this is the way they do things here. Like, I want to be a part of that, or, this can work for me. If your coach is, not being the same person every day, or he's kind of wishy-washy, and the players are kind of wishy-washy. It's like, I don't necessarily know what direction this franchise is going or what they're trying to get accomplished here. I think that's when you don't necessarily have a culture built. And I say when I walked into the building, I said there's a standard that was set already. Like, okay, this is the way we work. This is the way we watch film. This is the way we meet. This is the way we walk through. Like, either you kind of get with it, or we'll find somebody else that really fits our program. So I think that's what it's all about, and it starts at the top. Obviously, with Robert Kraft, him selecting that person, and then that person has to create a standard, and it could be a multitude of different ways that it works. You see different types of cultures all throughout the league. We did it our way. In New England, Detroit's doing it their way. You got Philly doing it their way over there. You got Kansas City, they're doing it a certain type of way. So there's no one way to do it. It's just you find what, the coach finds what works for him, and his players, and you're going to have to make adjustments to it, as well based on your roster.
Okay, I'm picking up what you're putting down, so I'm going to vibe with you here. Let's say we get our new head coach. Let's say the culture and the identity is established. We got all that. Framework's there. Put that GM hat on. GM James. I mean, how are we building around this kid, Drake Maye, bro? Now, I know you're a running back. So are we going offensive line? We drafting Ashton Genty? What we doing? How we building around this kid, man? I need to know.
I mean, for me, at number 4 overall, I'm just taking the best person available. Mm-hmm. It doesn't necessarily have to be the offensive lineman, in my opinion. If it's Travis Hunter, if it's Will Johnson, it's Will Johnson. They think it's McMillan, whoever they feel is the best player available at number 4. I'm selecting him. Throughout the draft, you're definitely continue to draft some young offensive linemen for sure at some point. And then I think you have to address the receiver position as well. Whether that's in the draft or a free agency, whether it's a T. Higgins or whether you try and trade back in the draft, see if you can get somebody through trading back, getting a veteran and staying in the first round somehow within the top 10 picks or so. There's different ways of attacking it, but definitely with that number 4 overall pick, I'm just picking the best player I think is available. If it's an offensive lineman, that's perfectly fine too. Will Campbell, Banks, out of Texas. I think there's enough talent, at that, within that top 10 to where you can't go wrong with whoever you select that you feel fits your team.
You said it. They need Christian Gonzalez is great. Need another corner. Need a receiver. Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter out of Penn State's a freak. They need help on the pass rush. Sitting at 4.
It is.
Exactly. Is there someone you've been from watching college football this year that there's a player like, man, that kid is going to be special in the NFL?
There's quite a few of those guys. Like I love watching Travis Hunter. I think he'd be a great addition. He's a guy who's willing to tackle at corner. He can play in the slot, play outside. He has great ball skills. So I think that's always when we would go into meetings with Josh McDaniels, there's some guys who really know how to get after the ball. Guys like Darrelle Revis, Xavier Howard when he's with the Dolphins, and some of those guys you want to steer away from throwing the ball their direction because when it goes there, they know how to make a play on it and potentially create a turnover. I think he's one of those guys. I think Will Johnson's one of those guys. He is talented. And Abdul Carter too. I think the only thing on Abdul Carter, he's not the biggest. He's very explosive. He's not the biggest. He definitely can create a lot of pressure off the edge and everything. I'm not sure him in the run game, like how he's worried. I have to watch more tape on that as far as whether he's good, as far as stopping the run too. So have to watch a little bit more tape on some of these other guys. And I like the way Will Campbell talks too, the way that interview he had to end the year, the way he described what happens, when an offensive lineman gives up a sack versus the edge rusher when he, gets a sack or whatever it may be. I like his mentality. So I definitely like the idea of him as well.
Yeah, what do you say? Like a pass rusher gets a sack a game is a top 10, 15 pick. Offensive lineman gives up a sack a game. He's looking for work after his college time. That kid's mentality, man, that's great. I like it. GM James White, I like those evaluations, especially on Abdul Carter. Look, man, we can't bring you on without talking about Super Bowl 51. I mean, you were absolutely absurd that day. But what I wonder, every time I watch back, you scored 20 points, including the game-winning touchdown in overtime. You guys did not score your first touchdown until there were 2 minutes left in the third, and it was 28-9. When you broke through and finally got into the end zone, was there any juice? Was it relief? Where you're like, all right, I mean, we still got all these points to make up. Like, what was the talk on the bench and just after that?
I mean, just really happy to score a touchdown in the game. All right, we actually got a touchdown on the board. Just keep scratching, clawing. Do whatever you can to try and make it close. I mean, there wasn't like a huge amount of juice on the sideline, but it definitely like a sigh of relief. Like, okay, like we can actually put the ball in the end zone. Let's see if we can keep it rolling. Defense get some stops, but I thought everybody just stayed, dialed in no matter what the circumstances were. At times, Tom would be walking up and down the sideline, just like staying locked in. Like, let's keep it rolling, like that type of thing. Let's get it going. And then eventually we were able to break through, due in part to the defense, making enough stops. The Falcons helping us out by throwing the football. So, look, they helped us and we took advantage of it. So, I mean, I think it's I don't think we ever see probably anything like that, in our lifetime. So it's glad to be a part of it and be on the winning side.
If you're enjoying the conversation, be sure to check out Nesson's daily sports show. Boston has entered the chat. We talk about all things Boston sports and around the nation as well. It's available on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, Twitch, wherever else you get your podcast. If you want to watch past episodes, past interviews like Simone Biles, Rob Gronkowski, and many others, go to Nesson's YouTube page, hit the subscribe button and watch, or open up Spotify or wherever else you get your podcast and type in Boston has entered the chat. James, I'll tell you, man, it was, what was that? That was 2017, right? And I grew up a Patriots fan. My first job out of college, I was out in Missouri. We're all watching the Super Bowl at work. And it's 28-3, and I'm sitting there, and I go, what has led me to this point in my life? I'm like, what have I done? Like this, everything for nothing. And then you guys made it happen. Yeah. You said it, what Tom was saying up and down the sideline. I got to know, man, like fourth quarter game-tying drive, overtime game-winning drive. What is he saying to you guys in the huddle before the drive even begins? Is he saying anything? Is he going, hey, one play at a time? Like, what is Tom Brady saying to get you guys to lock in and keep going to push that game to overtime and eventually win it?
I mean, from my recollection, from what I remember, it's nothing in the huddle. I mean, once you get in the huddle, you just dialed in. I think at that point, you felt how tired their defense was. We were rolling, and it's just like we got them right where we want them. If we just go down there and execute, nothing that really had to be said, especially in overtime. We had so much confidence once we won the toss. It's just like, yeah, like just keep doing what we're doing. We'll end this game on this first possession, and that's what we did. So yeah, there wasn't any big motivational speech or any big moments where it's like somebody said something and we really got it going. I think everybody was just so laser focused at that point. And like those guys that played a ton of snaps. I mean, obviously the offensive linemen played close to 100 plays. Like Chris Hogan played like 90 something plays. You had Malcolm Mitchell making plays, like the most plays of the season. It was crazy. Not the most probably plays I played throughout the year as well. I was exhausted, so you just want you just wanted to continue doing what we were doing. All those the OTAs, training camp, running those hills, they were all for like those type of moments right there, and everything paid off.
Man, big ups to you. 3 Super Bowl rings. I mean, since you're the Lord of the Rings on the show, we got to know, who do you have in the Super Bowl this year? Give me the matchup. Give me the winner. Are the Chiefs three-peating? What we working with, James?
I actually was on somebody's podcast yesterday. We went through like the whole bracket and everything, and I ended up with how would I have the Ravens versus Philadelphia in the Super Bowl, and I had the Ravens winning it. That was my. It was tough though.
Yeah,
going through the games, I had the Ravens and Chiefs rematching in the AFC Championship, and then I had the Lions and Philly in the NFC Championship.
Wow. All right. So you got Lamar beating Mahomes finally.
In Arrowhead.
In Arrowhead.
He had to go into Buffalo and win 2 before that. So it'd be a tough. Go ahead.
Do you text Kyle Van Noy after every sack and go, how are you still playing?
No, I haven't. I haven't shot him a text or anything, but I've definitely been watching, retweeting his posts when he posts like some of his highlights and stuff. But it's been amazing to see, and I know a lot of people get written off once they hit a certain age. And, they feel like your performance isn't going to be the same, but he's got better and better. And I said, hopefully he gets some money this offseason or whatever it may be. I hope he does get paid. It's just unfortunate because some people are just different. Some people still can get better and better with time, and you got to take every situation for what it is. I don't think you just group everybody into one category once you hit a certain age that your performance is going to start dipping.
Hey, hand up. I thought that when he was done with the Pats, he went to the Chargers. They let him go. I go, he was great. I just think he's at that age. What he's doing with the Ravens is unreal right now. James, I want to go back real quick when you said there was nothing said in the huddle. It's just everyone's locked in on the plays. Is that right there like an example A of culture where you guys, I am positive, you put 31 other teams in the situation you guys were in. They're thinking about what the score is. They're thinking about how they're going to lose a Super Bowl. They're just thinking about how this is impossible. But you guys, it seems like instead of making the world bigger than it has to be in the biggest game of your life, you made it smaller, like play-by-play. Is that example A of a culture?
Yeah, I think it's culture. I think it's leadership. And I think it's everybody trusting in one another. I think I go back to the AFC Championship last year between the Ravens and the Chiefs. When you look at the way the Ravens performed, they started playing a little left-handed. Guys were kind of going back and forth with one another on the sideline. You start seeing some of that frustration as time was starting to dwindle off when the game was still very winnable for the Baltimore Ravens, a game in which I thought they should have won. I just thought they started to get a little tight, in those moments. And for us, I feel like we didn't get tight. I think we just continued to believe in one another, trust the process and everything else. I think that standard had been set, like I said before, I even got there. I think everybody just trusted the preparation, that you put in, and you trusted one another. We had a lot of veteran players. I think probably Malcolm Mitchell was probably like the only rookie playing, within that offense. So we had guys that we had truly trust and belief in, and nothing really had to be said. You just go out there and execute.
You got a good story from your overall time being with the Pats, something about Tom Brady, maybe, what it was like, really getting to know Bill Belichick. You got a good story that you can share on the pod that you're up for sharing?
Any good stories? I always my favorite, like Bill Belichick story, like involving myself is always my rookie season. During training camp, getting the handoff, during team drills. I don't know, break a nice little run. I come back. I like go back to whatever the sideline or behind the huddle, thinking I was done. But they told me to get back in for the next play, pretty exhausted because I, ran pretty hard on that play. And I come back in the next play, get another handoff. I try and bounce it outside, and Brandon Brown just like knocks me off my feet, like my feet like go in the air. There's fans in the stand like, ooh, like, oh man. So I go finish the play, and like go run past the safeties and everything. Come back, and Bill comes to me, hey White, come here. It's like, look, the bigger they are, the harder they hit. I was like, what are you talking about? Like Bill, I was like he got a shot on me, but hey, most people that are gonna be tackling me is gonna be bigger than me, so I'm like all that. But yeah, he's a hilarious coach, man. As you guys see, you start to see some of his personality now throughout these podcasts and stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He's been doing and being on Pat McAfee and everything. He's actually pretty personable. He's funny. He knows how to crack jokes and fun dude to be around. And then for Tom, I don't know if I have really any funny stories, about Tom, but I mean, obviously just getting to share the locker room and feel with him, seeing the preparation that he puts in, the amount of time that he dedicates to the game, definitely, second to none. And, being a young player walking into that, you're like, man, this dude's whatever. By the time I got there, he must have been like, I don't know, like 13, 14, 15 years in. It's like he's still like preparing like he just started. And it's like, how can I not try and, put the work in to go out there and execute the way he does?
I got a question about Tom, actually. I love hearing that. What did he say to you when he got Super Bowl MVP in Atlanta, Super Bowl 51? What did he say to you? Like, I'm sorry?
Like, he said, I thought, like, James should have won everything. But hey, it's not his decision, so
right.
It's not his choice. It's a quarterback league. He performed, extremely well in that game too. Close to like 500 yards passing or so.
Mm-hmm.
So, anytime a quarterback, does that, it's more than likely going to end up going to the quarterback.
James, last one from me. I have to get your reaction to Chapel Bill. When you heard the news, hey, even before you heard it was official, James, when you heard that he was flirting with UNC, what did you think? And then obviously once it became official, how do you think he'll do? I
didn't think it was real at first, and then seeing the breaking news that he was actually going there, definitely was a surprise to me. I definitely hope he does well. It's going to be a challenge. I'm currently helping out at Northern Illinois University, so I'm getting a firsthand look at what the new world of college football is like, and it's tough. I mean, one day you have a couple guys on your roster, next day you lose 10 guys on your roster, so it's different. I know he'll obviously make sure those kids are prepared for the next level, prepared week in and week out, and ready to go and dominate their opponents. They'll definitely have a coaching advantage, every single week. I'm sure he'll still just have to get a little abreast on some of the college rules that are a little tad bit different. And I think the kids are going to want to play for him. I think it's just all about, this first season is going to be very important. How many games can they win? And can he retain, all the good players that he's able to bring in?
Man, I like you point that out. And that's awesome to hear you're working at NIU. We always wonder, what's next? I know you're doing the Money Down pod. I saw you did a live episode in Madison at the Nitty Gritty. I think that was sick. What got you to want to work with NIU now? What are you doing there? Is it running backs coach, or are you just helping out around the program?
Just kind of helping out around the program. I know last year it was more of like a player development type of thing, and this year potentially looking to do a little bit more as far as player personnel, helping with NIL sponsorships, a little bit of an all-encompassing job. I don't think I necessarily want to be a coach. Most of the people there call me coach, but I don't consider myself, that as of right now. That's not the job title I'm looking for. But the head coach there, Thomas Hammock, he was my running back coach in Wisconsin for 3 years. So, I mean, he's been trying to had me, turn into a coach and everything for the last couple of years. But I'm not necessarily ready for that. But it's been fun. It's been fun, being around, the players. It brings me back to my college days. I remember sitting in similar type chairs to what they sit in. So, being a guy who they could watch film with, just have regular conversations with, in meeting rooms to make sure they stay grounded. It's been really cool.
I love hearing that. That's awesome to hear. Hey, we got to go back to your days in Wisconsin real quick. I lived in Madison for 2 years. I tell everyone, summertime, specifically summertime, best city in the world. Dead of winter, you got to go other places.
Amen.
Man, James, you think of your running back rooms through your time at Wisconsin. Who's the best running back that you shared a room with?
Oof.
Definitely have to be Melvin Gordon.
Oh, yeah.
I say that was just supremely talented. Put the work in too. Seeing him evolve from, a freshman running back that came in, didn't really know too much, had the red shirt, and then coming in, putting the work during the off season and just completely turned into a different player, that spring and that off season, and to see, us being able to share a backfield. And at the time, I don't know if a group of running backs broke it, but we had the most, rushing yards of running back duo. And the next year he's up for the Heisman, really carrying the team, to all these victories. It's just fun to watch and see the maturation for him. Just, like I say, supremely talented, but put the work in too, and the results definitely show for itself. So I have to say him. What
was your spot? Nitty gritty, Wando's, anywhere on State Street, pretty much?
Yeah, Wando's was definitely the spot. Still is a great spot to go to. Wando's a really good dude. Wando was definitely a spot. I'm trying to think. There's a place, Johnny O's, when I was there. That's changed. There's quite a few places. Madison's a fun place to be, as you mentioned, especially in the summertime. Wintertime, it's brutal.
Yeah. No other way to put it. And finally, last one from me, James. What got a guy from South Florida to end up playing college football up in Wisconsin?
For me, two of my, two of my high school teammates, Connor O'Neill, Desmond Southford, they're a year older than me. They ended up going to Wisconsin. I knew nothing about Wisconsin probably prior to that. Got an offer from there, took a visit. At first, I'm pretty sure I went during the summertime, or I don't know, either summer or spring. It was a ghost town on campus. Wasn't completely convinced and everything. And then I took my official visit there, the first game of the year, and I was like, wow, this is, an amazing place. Students everywhere, got the frat houses, State Streets jumping, fans all across the city. I was like, okay, this is a great, and great academics too. Like, oh, this is a great place to be. And they're running a pro-style offense. I didn't want to be a part of I know the NFL is much different than what it is now. I didn't want to be a part of a spread offense. I wanted to be a part of a pro-style offense. Knew they're going to run the football a ton, so it fit, me perfectly. And then definitely, one of the best decisions I ever made. I said, great football program, great school, made some friends. As you said, I have my podcast with two of my former teammates, but made friendships that definitely, last forever. Met my wife there too, so yeah, it all worked out.
There you go, man. Hey, I'll say, in my 2 years at Wisconsin too, anytime the name James White was brought up, anyone affiliated with the university, they would beam with a smile. You're one of the most beloved guys in that city to this very day. I'll tell you that.
That's cool.
Right there. James, I appreciate you taking the time to come on Foxboro Rush, man. Great talking football with you. Hope we'll have you on again, man, but appreciate you so much.
All right, sounds good. You guys have a good one.
You too, James. If you're enjoying the show, be sure to check out Foxboro Rush every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for all things Patriots football. With Jerod Mayo fired, the Patriots picking number 4 overall, it's going to be a busy offseason. On top of that, toss in, they need a general manager, and we hope ownership wakes up. Foxboro Rush dropping 3 days a week. It's available on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, Twitch, wherever you get your podcast. If you're watching on Nesson's YouTube page, hit the subscribe button as well. And whether you use a podcast app on your phone or Spotify, that's where you can catch the audio, a.k.a. the podcast of this all as well. All right, Trav. Doug Codd, Andrew Callahan dropped another heater. This is 3 off seasons in a row that Andrew Callahan is painting a very detailed picture.
Yes, too detailed for me.
Nope, I can't get enough of this.
I know.
Needed for the public.
I know.
One was, how Bill Belichick basically forced Matt Patricia and Joe Judge onto the offense.
Right.
The second was Robert Kraft making all these calls and also painting the picture behind the scenes of how Jerod Mayo was kind of alienating himself from the rest of the staff. That was last offseason Well, this one didn't get any better. Inside the Patriots 2024 season, Andrew Callahan and Doug Hyde went all in on this one. And here's what they open up with. Several sources across all levels of Patriots football operations spoke to the Herald on the condition of anonymity. I think I said that right.
Anonymity.
Thank you. To unpack a lost 2024 campaign, some described an arrogant rookie coach who couldn't get his arms around the job and majored in mixed messages. Discipline is mandatory when you have a young team, so you don't try to cut corners or slip through the cracks and stuff like that. A veteran player said, I feel like that's really what happened with Mayo. Now, I want to start here. The coaching staff.
Yeah.
The leadership. That's what's big. We saw a faltered, just not a good culture at all. Flawed. That's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
After he was hired, the Patriots were slow to fill out their staff, talking about Jerod Mayo. Alex Van Pelt was hired, and they leaned heavily on Executive Vice President Elliot Wolf to find new assistants. This coincides, Trav, and one of my issues was Jerod Mayo was a coach in the NFL for just 5 seasons. And yes, he played for a long time, but he played and coached and lived in New England since he got in the NFL.
Yes.
He wasn't in other cities, other rooms, other locker rooms to build out a staff, to build relationships. So they had to rely on Elliot Wolf, who was with the Packers and the Browns at certain points before the Patriots. That's how we got to know Alex Van Pelt. Well, Elliot Wolf himself, he helped them hire on the staff, first-time offensive coordinator, first-time defensive coordinator, first-time special teams coordinator, first-time wide receivers coach, first-time linebackers coach, first-time offensive line coach. This is what jumped out to me, Trev. Tyler Hughes, first-time wide receivers coach in the NFL. His previous experience, he was an analyst at the University of Washington.
Okay.
An offensive assistant for the Patriots for 2020 to 2022. Elliot Wolf got to New England in 2020. A high school head coach in Utah. And a D2 coach for Minot State as well. And then 9 seasons in NJCAA, basically JUCO level.
JUCO, right? Yeah.
When he was with Minot State, he was also a quality control coach with Ohio State.
Sure.
Tyler Hughes went 1-10, 1-10, then 3-8 as a head coach.
Oh, my God.
That's a 5-28 record in 3 seasons.
Never won a damn thing.
And then Elliot Wolf, in an interview he did with Henry McKenna after the season, talking to Fox Sports, said this, quote, I would say that I guess personally, what I was expecting is maybe a little bit more internal development, which is a good lesson certainly heading into next year. You can't always rely on that. The rookie receivers didn't have it really that much for us. So Elliot Wolf was blaming the coaching for the lack of development for the draft class he picked. He helped pick the wide receivers coach.
He helped pick the damn coaches. I mean, George, this is, look, you know how I said off the top where you said, I can't get enough of this stuff, and I said it's too many details? This is kind of what I mean because, you know, all these articles, all this stuff coming out is essentially continuing to, you know, as the deets come out, we're just piling on Jerod Mayo here, right? But this is an example of where Elliot Wolf, as you and I have talked about on the show, we've been in unison on this, is he needs to be held accountable. And these are the kind of stories that you hear, and you and I are like the meme with Leonardo DiCaprio pointing and going, see, we know that. We said that. That's what we said.
Yeah.
He needs to be held accountable. It's things like this, George. I mean, yeah, it's easy to point fingers and throw people under the bus in terms of coaches, but how about you helped pick the coaches? So how can you point the fingers and drive the bus, not throw them under the bus, drive the bus over coaches that you helped bring in? He must be held accountable, George. I thought they should have let Elliot Wolf go with Jerod Mayo. They missed an opportunity there, but it ain't too late. And depending on which coach takes this job, he may be told to get the step in and shown his walking papers. He may, George.
And keep in mind, like Elliot Wolf and Alex Van Pelt, there's a link there for the Browns.
Right.
When he also makes a comment like that for the wide receivers, he's also making a comment. Layden Robinson didn't develop. Caden Wallace didn't develop. He was injured. The offensive line coach was a first-time offensive line coach linked to the Browns.
Exactly.
Again, an Elliot Wolf connection.
That's right.
This is what got to me. I see that and I go, Elliot Wolf, you hypocrite. Then there was another part of the report from Callahan and Hyde. To all of the people saying he needed an experienced staff around him to help him find the right answers and refine solutions, I don't know if that would have helped. I don't know if he would have listened to what they were going to say. That's a quote from the article. Then another quote. Multiple staffers disagreed with this sentiment, saying Mayo listened as an assistant and head coach. The sources talking about, well, you know, even if Mayo had experience, he wouldn't have listened. This is the front office trying to throw Jerod Mayo and the coaching staff under the bus, trying to pass off the blame. This is what you get when you force a front office on a head coach.
That's right.
Everyone has to be aligned in their vision, in their mission, how they view a football team, how they want to build it, personnel, schemes, everything.
Amen.
And that's the issue. Then here was one, Trev.
Oh, no.
After we won, Mayo was the happiest guy, bouncing off the walls during the week. After we lost, it was something like someone shot his dog. Meanwhile, most of us are watching the tape, and it's like, oh, crap, we were so lucky to win this game. Talking about that week 1 win over the Bengals. Players were quoted in this article to say,
come on.
You know what? It got away from us, I would say, kind of after week 2.
That's week 2?
Just
That's all
deteriorating.
season. It's all season, George.
Yeah. From the jump. And there was, quotes from Mike Giardi saying around the springtime, we'd hear one thing, hear another the next. There was even a report that an injured Juwan Bentley called out players and coaches for their professionalism. They later beat the Jets that week, but then the season ended the way the season did.
Right.
Juwan Bentley has to call out your coaches? Again, first-time head coach, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, special teams coordinator, wide receiver, linebackers coach, offensive line coach. This team couldn't tackle. They couldn't block. They couldn't get open. They couldn't scheme.
Yes.
Special teams was okay. I liked Jeremy Springer. He's all right. I'd keep him around.
All these guys were new.
Leadership.
Yes.
This article, they can try and paint a bad picture on Jerod Mayo, who certainly was in over his skis,
Of
man.
course.
Was not ready for the job. But leadership failed the Patriots this year.
Amen.
And that's why I go back to they need to take this one serious.
Yes. And it starts at the top too, George, with the leadership stuff, because, it's easy for all of us in the media and even the fans to say, well, Jerod Mayo was set up to fail. Look at the talentless roster that he had. But what about if you're going to set this guy up to succeed, George, and he's a rookie head coach, put some veteran coaches around him to surround him with rookie head coaches. Even Elliott Wolf, new time in this particular position he's in now.
Yeah.
George, it's just like all of this was a mess to begin with. We all saw it. The only one who didn't was the most important person to try and see it before it happened, and that was Robert Kraft. You got to start at the top.
Imagine the simplicity of bringing a Steve Wilkes on the staff. He wasn't with anyone this past season.
Yes.
Interim head coach, was an actual head coach, defensive-minded.
Been around forever.
More than Ben McAdoo.
Yep.
And here was the Ramondre Stevens situation. That was against the Chargers, where he was supposed to be benched but didn't.
Oh.
Mayo had told the national television broadcast and the Patriots' local radio team Stevenson would be benched after fumbling 7 times. According to sources, Mayo had told offensive coordinator Alex Van Pelt to sit him shortly before the game, but that order, which was supposed to be relayed to running backs coach Taylor Embry, failed to reach Stevenson. Now, the two maintained a strong working relationship. Van Pelt effectively operating as the head coach of the offense. His organizational skills helped keep them together, although his play calling wasn't good. Jerod, you're the head coach. Tell Alex Van Pelt, hey, you're going to bench Ramondre. I'm going to go talk to him. And make sure you let the whole staff know. That screams to me Jerod Mayo trying to keep a hold and didn't want to tell Ramondre leading up, didn't want to leak out to the media. Pre-staff meeting with the offense. Ramondre's benched. I'll tell him myself. Alex, got it? Taylor, got it? Yeah, good? Okay, I'm going to go tell Ramondre. That's what a head coach should do. So there's the falters of Jerod Mayo, but there's also the falters of this front office. Trav, all of it says to me, lack of accountability.
Absolutely.
Man. That's what it
lack
is.
Lack of accountability, lack of experience. And what's that saying, George? The devil is in the details.
Yep.
Veteran coaches in this league, quite frankly, in all of sports, know that that's the case. Jerod Mayo, unfortunately, George, had to learn the hard way.
Yeah. And as Robert Kraft, we heard it, how tough he took it on himself.
Yeah.
Jerod Mayo had to learn the hard way. He's the one that had to take every bullet, man. He had to take every
did it.
He took it all the criticism.
You got to give him credit.
Elliott Wolf throwing his staff under the bus that he assembled. Robert Kraft and Jonathan Kraft just sitting up in his suite, didn't do anything about it. Jerod Mayo had to take everything.
Amen.
So, yeah, I had to learn the hard way. Got to learn some way. Hey, he's Travis Thomas. I'm Georgia Belichick. This is Foxboro Rush. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you guys with a new episode on Monday. Have a good day, everyone.